People always ask for something new. It's inevitable. At 50, well, it stops.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. One single injection unlocks your DNA and will release another version of yourself. This is the substance.
I'm Sue.
You're hired.
Let's go.
A perfect balance of 7 days each. The one and only thing not to forget. You are one. You can't escape from yourself.
There's been a slight misuse of the substance.
This balance is not working!
Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop?
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
You have to control yourself! Old, fat, disgusting!
People are gonna love that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, aging Hollywood starlets. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, feeling a lot better. Still not quite 100% from my flu last weekend, but today was the first day I was actually able to exercise, and I've been eating normal for the last couple days. So yeah, I'm almost back to normal.
Nice.
Well, as normal as I can be anyway.
True. Normal, the relative term.
There you go.
All right, also with us, it's Don and Nelly. What's up, Dawn?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
Okay. I don't remember if I know. We might have mentioned on the last episode that we could be doing 2 episodes for this week because the 2 releases. I know when I posted our episode for Never Let Go, I mentioned it. So if not, then yeah, it's another episode technically recording in the same week, and it's for the other release this week, which is The Substance, which everyone should be familiar with because advertisements all over nonstop, pretty much if you were at the theater. So I won't delay much. I will get the synopsis off IMDb. Let me get it up really quick. Let's see. A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. Okay, and before we get into kind of our opening thoughts, we kind of made the mutual decision that instead of doing our general thoughts and then a spoiler-filled walkthrough, because one, the movie, it's a rather long running time for a theatrical release, so that would have extended the episode way longer, almost probably longer than the movie itself. And there's just a lot to navigate around trying to be ambiguous. So we're just going to get right into it in this episode. Instead of like a traditional walkthrough, we're just going to kind of discuss the movie openly. We will probably go through things in somewhat order. Although if there's stuff we forget throughout the episode, I'm sure we'll reference it. But other than that, this is kind of warning at the beginning of the episode versus after our general thoughts that if you haven't seen it, you probably want to watch the movie first. Unless you just don't care, then listen along. So with that said, opening general spoilers, Venom, I'll kick it to you first. What'd you think of The Substance?
Okay, folks, before I get into my review, I have to caveat it with something. I'm the kind of person that I like to go into my movies as fresh as possible. Many of you know I don't watch trailers. I haven't watched a horror movie trailer in over 5 years. And I don't read reviews. And I tend to, on a weekend where a big movie comes out that I may not get the chance to watch right away, I'll actually avoid social media to the point where I'll literally just log out for a couple of days, avoid social media, because I know, especially because this past weekend I had the flu. I knew I wasn't going to get a chance to see The Substance during the weekend before all the word of mouth got out. And now I have a good example of why, because I'm about to make a statement that's probably going to piss off a lot of fucking people, and I don't care. I don't think The Substance is nearly as good as people are making it out to be. All weekend I've been reading reviews from critics and fans alike, basically praising this movie as the second coming of body horror, of, you know, how great it is and what a surprise it was. Admittedly, the practical effects in this movie are stellar. They are a 10 out of 10. Probably the only 10 out of 10, the only aspect of this movie I would give a 10 out of 10 is its practical effects, you know, peppered in with some CGI stuff as well. But it all looks great. It looks amazing. It all works. My issue, should I say my many, many, many issues with this movie lie in other aspects of the film. I'm not even sure where to start at this point. I guess the first place I'll start is plot holes. This movie is just absolutely filled with plot holes to the point that we as the viewer have to just accept that these characters either don't know what they're doing and aren't really attempting to find out what they're doing, how this stuff is affecting them. The ridiculousness of some of the scenarios in this movie. Like, who the fuck receives a mysterious package with a syringe filled with green goo and decides, yeah, fuck it, I'll inject this in myself? Like, literally, Demi Moore, our Elizabeth, our character played by Demi Moore, literally watches a 1.5-minute long YouTube video, and somehow that's enough to convince her, yeah, I'll inject myself with this shit. Doesn't speak to a doctor, doesn't speak to anybody, not another human being about this stuff, just sees it and is like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Okay, so, I mean, right from the first 10 minutes of the movie, I'm already rolling my eyes, wondering what the fuck is going on. And I have dozens of these, folks. I don't know that I'm even going to be able to go over all of them in this one podcast episode. Next, this shit doesn't come with any instructions, yet somehow, magically, Elizabeth and Sue both know exactly what they fucking need to do. Like, literally, they open up the box, they get very generic instructions. This is the activator, use it once. This is the stabilizer package, use it every day for the 7 days of your switch. But it's like, there's no instructions saying what exactly. Like, somehow they just guess that it's spinal fluid that they have to use as a stabilizer. There's no instruction that says it's fucking spinal fluid. It could have been blood, it could have been brain tissue, it could have been plasma, but no, let's guess spinal fluid, and there it is. It actually turns out it is spinal fluid. Just this, oh god, I'm gonna be all over the place, folks. I'm sorry, because I have so many issues with this movie. This movie is the most ridiculous display of Hollywood I've seen in years. This is not Hollywood on any planet that I've ever been to. This movie makes it seem like Hollywood is just a cesspool of human trash and that there's no redeemable people here. My friends, I live in Los Angeles and I've worked in the film industry. That is an absolute misnomer, okay? For every Harvey Weinstein, there's a Tom Hanks. For every Armie Hammer, there's a Keanu Reeves. For every P. Diddy, there's a Michael Caine, okay? Hollywood is not a fucking cesspool of human trash. There are good people here that work in this industry, both in front and behind the camera. So this kind of interpretation of Hollywood just really, really pecks at me because I am a local. If you're outside of LA and you watch this movie, you probably think, oh, that's what Hollywood is like. It's just fuck your mother for $1. Or fuck your mother over for $1. Excuse me. The first one came out wrong. And that's just not really the way it is. Okay, next. On what fucking planet do people still watch workout television shows in 2024? If this movie was set in the 80s, okay, totally makes sense because every celebrity had a workout tape or show of some kind. In 2024, I don't know that people are watching workout. I mean, we have apps now where people can work out. There's YouTube videos where people can watch. Who is watching a network television show to work out with some celebrity who's not even really a celebrity quite yet? So that ridiculousness of it took me out of it. Oh man, where else can I go with this? I don't want to go too long because these are general thoughts. Ultimately, I saw this movie yesterday on a Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. and the theater was almost full. And that bodes well for the movie. That means that word of mouth is working. That means that a lot of people are actually really liking this movie, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that the movie is shitty. I'm saying that I have a lot of fucking issues with it. And the last one that I'm going to highlight right now before the dozens of others that I highlight later after my co-hosts get a chance to do their general thoughts is the last 15 minutes of this movie devolves into a horror comedy. And that's not just my opinion, folks. Like I said, I saw this in a full theater. For the last 15 minutes of the movie, every fucking one of us in the theater were laughing our asses off. Now, if that was the intention of the filmmakers to kind of show the ridiculousness of beauty standards and things like that, okay, I kind of get it, but you have this movie that's serious throughout the first 2 hours of its 2.5-hour runtime. That's somewhat grounded in reality, even though it's a very fictitious reality of Hollywood. And then, like I said, it just turns into a fucking horror comedy. Walking out of this theater, I felt the same way I felt after walking out of Malignant. Whereas Malignant starts out as a very gritty, down-to-earth haunted house movie, and then it turns into an over-the-top action thriller. And admittedly, I have warmed up to Malignant over the years. I wasn't a huge fan of it when it first came out, but once you kind of know what you expect, rewatches are usually more enjoyable. Unfortunately, I only got a chance to watch The Substance once. Maybe upon rewatch, I may like it more. And I did like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to be complaining a lot about this movie because of all the reviews that I've listened to and read, very few people are taking this movie to task. And if I have to do it, I'm going to fucking do it. This movie is equal parts ridiculous, absurd, over the top, and then just like I said, filled with ridiculous plot holes, idiotic decision-making by the characters. On top of the fact that I don't even think the performances are all that great in this movie. I think Demi Moore is great. I think Demi Moore is top-notch. Margaret Qualley, is that her name? The girl who plays Sue? I wanted to strangle her in every fucking scene she was in. Just so over-the-top, bubbly. Especially considering what we all know. I'm assuming that we've all seen the movie at this point, if you're still with us, since we already gave that spoiler warning. The fact that they're the same person, Sue and Elizabeth, yet they're absolutely not, which kind of makes the makers of The Substance, not the movie, but the actual substance in the film, the real villains of the movie, and we find out nothing about them whatsoever. It stays completely ambiguous who created this stuff, how they're picking the people that they're selling it to, and they're not even selling it, they're giving it away. That's the other thing. So this is obviously some kind of weird social experiment by a fucked up scientist who's just trying to see how many lives he, she, or they can destroy with this shit, because they're not making any money. The shit can't be cheap. I mean, considering what it does and how it works, and and the fact that you have to get, bi-weekly refills of all of the injections, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, it maybe had I seen the movie last week before all the hype, before all the word of mouth, I may have enjoyed it more. Ultimately, I watched this movie and I'm laughing through parts that I don't think I'm supposed to be laughing at. I'm rolling my eyes at parts I don't think I'm supposed to be rolling my eyes at. And then you fill the movie with absolutely unlikable pieces of garbage that I don't care about. I have no sympathy. Even Demi Moore Excuse me. Sorry, folks. Still a little sick. Even Demi Moore, who's supposed to be our sympathetic character, makes some terrible decisions throughout the movie that make no sense to me. And just when she's about to have what I think is that redeeming moment where it's like she's going to get me back on her side, she fucking just screws it all up again. And it's like, what the fuck? So, yeah, folks, amazing effects, 10 out of 10 practical effects, but are practical effects enough to make a spectacular movie? In my opinion, no. And even though this movie is good, it's objectively good, it falls short of great, even though everyone and their mother is telling me that it's great and that I should have liked it more than I did. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. I know what I like, and I know, excuse me, I know how I feel when I'm watching a movie. That first watch is always important because we're never going to be able to reproduce how you felt watching a movie for the first time. And this first watch was just not ultra fun for me. Yes, the gore is great. Yes, some of the, watching Demi Moore get her face smashed into a bathroom mirror. Chef's kiss, my friends, superb. But this storytelling is so disjointed and all over the place that I just couldn't get behind it. So I'm going to say the substance is good, but I don't see what all the hype is about with this one. I just absolutely don't get it. And I'm going to have a lot more issues to talk about as this episode goes, but I think I ranted enough for now. I will pick up my rant later and pass it on to the next person.
All right, Don and Ellie, what are your, well, I keep wanting to say general thoughts, opening thoughts on the substance?
Yeah, I really, really am glad that we kind of went off the general thoughts thing because, I kind of got a lot to say about this one as well. First of all, I really like the visuals. I really like the presentation here. As Venom said, the technical story, the technical prowess in this is fantastic. The veneer of everything that takes place, the different path, the different locations, everything here all looks immaculate. The practical effects, what can be said about that? Just top notch all across the board. Then what else? Wow. Man, that's a loaded question. I'm really glad that you picked out a lot of the issues with the story because those were a lot of the factors that I had with it as well. Yeah, the whole thing makes absolutely no sense. How any of this is supposed to work, how the entire substance ingesting process is supposed to be taken. What's it for? Why is it needed? I figured we would have had a little bit more buildup before it actually happens to, get a little bit of clues as to, this one star took this miracle formula and now she's got this, second wind to her career, or, this aging celebrity that nobody's ever heard of suddenly comes out of nowhere and, this magical treatment's this, the cause of everything. And, really go in depth on this treatise on ageism and sexism that kind of it seems to be the backbone of the film. The idea is there, yes. There's a strong touch in the film about all of the social commentary taking place. I really, really wish it would have been explored better, or not just necessarily take these low-hanging fruit approach that it does with all of everything. Whitewashing all of it away and just saying, here's this magical substance, take it, and you'll be fine. And we're supposed to care what happens to this woman, about why she takes it, what she's doing it for. It just didn't work. And none of her motivations made any kind of sense. Why this special substance being created made any kind of sense. And if this thing was as miraculous as you say it is, why the hell is it being given away for free? Like, shouldn't that have been like some kind of secret that her agent tips her off on? Or it's like, you haven't had any roles in a few years. I'm going to put in some favors and, send you some stuff. You'll know what to do with it. Like even something like that would have been fine. I mean, you probably would have wanted a little bit more in depth, but you take what you get in this kind of thing. But yeah, not even getting any kind of hint as to why it's needed, what it's there for, who created it, why they're giving it away for free. I mean, these are just simple issues that really you could have explored more. The running time is just absolutely egregious. Trim this thing down. I mean, put it under 2 hours. I would have been a little less intense about it, but 2.5 hours is just egregious. I mean, I was squirming. I was really starting to get uncomfortable by the hour 45 mark. Just, like you said, there's just absolutely unlikable people that you're trying to find a way to tolerate long enough for them to see their comeuppance. But yeah, too little, too late. It doesn't really start getting good until the final 20 minutes. And yeah, okay, the effects look great, but it's nothing I haven't seen before. I mean, I've seen stuff like Thanatomorphos and what's that other one with the zombie virus? God, I'm Contracted. There you go. Contracted did kind of similar stuff as well. It looked a little bit more gruesome and it didn't look as good, but it still kind of touched on a lot of the same areas here in terms of the body horror effect. So it's not like this is breaking new ground anyway. But yeah, just it has a great idea. It has a great head on its shoulders, and I really, really wish that it could have been used for greater effect. Yeah, just a black comedy with gore just doesn't really work as well as for me as I wanted it to. So yeah, there's parts to it I like. There's parts to it that could have been better. I'm invested in certain areas, but yeah, overall, I can't say that this was something for me. Yeah, it really, really missed the mark, and I'm kind of disappointed at it. Not to say it's bad, but yeah, just not for me. So I guess, at the expense of spoiling other stuff for later on, back to you, Mike.
Okay. So I'll get it out of the way that I probably liked it a lot more than you guys did, but to me, you guys both kind of already went over some of the plot holes, or whatever people want to refer to them as. The biggest plot hole to me, like when I was kind of driving home and thought about it for like a day, and we haven't really just pre-discussed the movie at all. So, but the biggest plot hole to me is, what exactly is the benefit of what is her name? Elizabeth Sparkle, I think that's the character's name, Demi Moore.
Yeah. Yes.
What is the benefit to her from taking this? Because it's not resurrecting her career. It's not doing anything beneficial to her. Like, I understand the concept that they say is like, oh, it's a better, younger version of yourself, but it's not like that better, younger version of herself. Like she, once the person's cloned out of her body, or whatever you refer to it as, she's seen as like a completely different person. Like, now they have the connection because they know that they come from, or they're connected, but like everyone in the world, other than I guess the substance people and anyone else who's used it that can pick up on it, like it's not like, it's like no one's going, oh, Elizabeth Sparkle, you look so much younger and big. Like, to me, like, I like a lot of the subtext in the movie. I like a lot of the themes they explore. But to me, it would have worked a lot better if this was a miracle drug that kind of actually de-aged Elizabeth Sparkle herself. And then it kind of worked like, well, once you start using it, you like, maybe once it wears off, then your aging accelerates. So you get to like double down, and like it screws you up that way. But the way it kind of works is like, I don't understand. I mean, what does Demi Moore or Elizabeth Sparkle's character get out of this? They never really explain why. I mean, I guess, I mean, it continues making money if they have the same money, but like, she gets no fame or glitz or glamour out of what Sue, I think, is the younger version's name, right? Or what she names her.
Yeah, it's Sue. Yeah.
What benefit does she get from Sue being a star? Like, I don't understand.
What benefit does Sue get from being a star? It's not like Sue has a social security number and a license and a checking account. How is she getting paid exactly? This is what I mean about the massive plot holes in this movie. Thank you, Mike, for bringing up the, how does this help Elizabeth? Because that's issue number 37 I have with this movie on my laundry list of issues I have with this movie. But yeah, it's like even money. Like Elizabeth Sparkle isn't even getting any more money or recognition from this stuff because she can't collect the money that Sue is making. So yeah, again, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and so I can understand that maybe they're trying to say that. Okay, so let's say with Elizabeth Sparkle, it kind of feels like they're trying to approach that character in two ways, because the movie kind of opens and I think it opens with her Hollywood star on the walk, and so they're kind of painting the picture of like, oh yeah, at one point she was like a top-notch A-list actress, but now she's aging out, and the best thing she can get is like this workout show. So maybe they're trying to say, well, on one hand she's sympathetic, but on the other hand she still has vanity about like wanting to be like famous, so that's why she succumbs to wanting to take the substance. But I don't think they do a great job explaining that. Like, you can kind of come up with your own explanation of why she would want to do it. Maybe she just didn't understand fully how it works. Another plot hole, Venom, that you kind of already touched on, not only was there not instructions, but it's like, even if there was instructions, I would probably not successfully stitch someone's spine up, even if I had instructions on how to do it.
Exactly.
Now, I know when it comes to horror movies, and just kind of, because I do kind of consider this like an over the top absurdist movie as it goes. It's not that I don't give concessions, because like I'm not gonna hold the movie to the fire for like everything like that. But yeah, it is kind of funny how like Sue emerges from her, and within like 15 minutes she's like performing like stitching surgery on someone, and it just happens to work perfectly. Also, like the spinal fluid stuff.
Extracting fucking spinal fluid. Come on. You gotta go to fucking school to learn how to do that.
Yeah. What else? What can I say for opening that hasn't been said? So yeah, like I think like I still got like the entertainment value out of it, and like the last 15 minutes, yeah, I was laughing too. It was definitely over the top and absurdist, and I think at that point there's nothing much else to do but laugh, especially when we get like the final form, I guess we would call it.
Monstro, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way like you can't chuckle at that. So I can't honestly believe filmmakers didn't think people would be like cracking up at the absurdity of that. But yeah, the biggest part that just always kind of stuck with me after, I mean, the biggest detraction for me was just I didn't understand the motivation to take it in the first place. Because if it would have been explained like, oh, it will actually make you more youthful and like a better version of yourself, then it totally makes sense. Because like Demi Moore, I think she's in her 60s now. She could probably pass for like 40s in the movie. So if it was like, oh, this will make you look like you're in your 20s, yes, it makes sense, because then she herself would probably go out and start auditioning for things, and casting agents would want her to start being in roles again that she could no longer get. But I don't understand how she benefits from Sue getting it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then yeah, I mean, I guess the other part is like, even like Sue's motivations, like when she wants to keep extending her time, and it's like, well, if you're treating the other part of you, like eventually that's going to come back to haunt you too. But I guess she didn't care. Like it, I don't know. They didn't really seem concerned with the rules of like how it worked. But I guess that's I mean, I guess you could take the subtext of that too. It's like the young kind of feed off the blood of like the old and kick them to the curb and say it's my time now. Whatever. I mean, there's a lot going on, I guess, with that. But overall, like, I had a good time with it. I do think it sometime could be shaved off of it, because I almost think like once we get the first kind of like stabilizer scene and how all the medicine stuff works, they can almost do like a montage to like get us through what was like the next 30-ish minutes on screen. Could almost been a montage of her like extending the time and making original Elizabeth Sparkle more decrepit. Yeah, and I thought there was like little parts in this movie where it looked like they were going to lean into the horror more, like when she runs into the guy at the restaurant who was like the original version of that male nurse guy or whatever.
The nurse. Yep.
Yeah, I was hoping like, and when you said Venom, like we didn't learn much about the people producing it. I thought that scene was going to like lead Elizabeth Sparkle into like trying to like track down like the people, or at least something, but that never really happened. But yeah, effects were good, all gooey and slimy and bloody, and that was fun. But yeah, overall fun movie, but it's not quite the movie like some people are saying. So I'll just leave my opening at that. So back to you, Venom.
Okay, back to my list. Demi Moore, Elizabeth Sparkle. She's supposed to be our sympathetic character in this movie. Why does she want to make herself young, you may ask? Considering she just turned 50, she just had her 50th birthday when the movie starts. She's had 25 fucking years of success in Hollywood. She's made millions of dollars. She won a fucking Oscar. She has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She owns a high-rise apartment in Beverly Hills. And she still fucking wants more. That's fucking selfish. That's so fucking selfish. Like, honey, you won. You fucking... Do you know how many women, not just women, but how many people move to Hollywood to try to become a star, and what the minuscule percentage is of those people that actually fucking make it? And you made it. And instead of stepping aside, and that's the thing too, is that she thought that because she lost her aerobics hosting show, that her career is over. You ever heard of Helen Mirren? Helen Mirren was fucking gorgeous in the 60s and 70s. And then when she aged, you know what she did? She started taking different roles. And she became even more fucking popular in the 90s and 2000s because of it. Demi Moore, or Elizabeth Sparkle, is so fucking selfish that she can't handle her aging. And listen, before I go on with this statement, I'm already probably pissing off a lot of women here. If we even have any female listeners. I am a man, and since men don't put the entirety of their self-worth on their looks, we tend to not get depressed as we age. Women, and again, I'm not saying that it's idiotic or moronic, I'm just saying I don't understand it, that's all. Women will put so much of their own self-worth on their looks that if they get a wrinkle on their face, suddenly they feel worthless, they feel old, they feel, whatever the case may be. And I understand, the Hollywood mentality affects little girls more than it affects little boys. Like when I was a little boy, I wanted to look like Bret Michaels. I wanted to be built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I didn't get depressed when I couldn't have it. And I found other ways to give myself self-worth. And so when I see a woman like this who's literally had 25 years, half of her fucking life, 25 years of success in this town, and it's not like she was blackballed. It's not like she can't get a fucking job. You just got to take mom roles now. You got to take grandma roles now. It's not a fucking big deal. And you would think that as an Oscar winner, she would understand that. It's the nature of acting. You're acting, you're portraying a role. But for Elizabeth Sparkle, if it's not fucking, the role of a hot, beautiful woman, it's like it's worthless. Like I said, she puts all of her worth on her looks. And again, I don't understand it. And I don't know, even if a woman were to sit down with me and explain it to me, I probably still wouldn't get it because, again, I'm a guy and most of us don't put our self-worth on our looks. Even even 10 out of 10 hot fuckboys in Hollywood don't put the entirety of their self-worth on their looks. And it's actually sad. I mean, I don't, because I see Mrs. Venom doing it too, because I'm in my 50s. Mrs. Venom is nearing 50, and I see her looking in the mirror. I see her lamenting the bags over her eyes, the crow's feet, the smile lines. But you know what? When I look at her, I see that 19-year-old girl that I fell in love with almost 30 years ago. That's what I fucking see every time I see her. And I know that's not what the world sees. It's just what I see. But sometimes I just, like I said, I don't get putting the entirety of your self-worth on your looks, because when you lose those looks, and we all lose our looks, okay, it happens to all of us. We can't all be Selma Hayek, who's still looking good at almost 60, okay? She's a unicorn, okay? That's not the norm. Even in Hollywood, that's not the norm. And even Demi Moore, ultimately, Demi Moore is 62 years old, and she's naked through a lot of this movie. I think she looks great. I legitimately, I've dated 20-year-olds that didn't have a body that nice. So
I got her a couple times.
I was fine with Elizabeth Sparkle over Sue, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Sue.
Okay.
The actress that plays Sue, she's pretty. Don't get me wrong, and she's young hot and vibrant. Yeah. But like, Demi Moore to me is just on another level, even at her age now.
Exactly. Because she's looked so good for over 40 years, and she still looks good, and she's still going to look good moving forward for at least a little bit longer. So, yeah, just, man. And then the other thought that always gets me is that these starlets who do start to age, it's almost like a surprise to them. Like they didn't realize that aging was a thing. It's like, did you think you were going to look 25 your whole fucking life? This is why you don't put the entirety of your self-worth on your looks, because we all fucking lose them. Every one of us, I'm sitting here with no t-shirt on, looking at my dad bod and my man boobs that I didn't have when I was in my 20s. But guess what? I'm not lamenting it.
Yeah, I don't agree. I was gonna say I don't disagree with you on that sentiment. I think, and of course we're three dudes on the show. We have no female representation to like bring up their points. But I assume what a female would retort in that is that it's not so much that they are putting all the value on their looks. It's they would say, I've grown up in a society that says that is my looks. Now,
right, that's what I was saying earlier about little boys and little girls are treated differently. Little girls see fashion magazines and they think that's how they have to look, whereas me as a little boy looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger as in a magazine, yes, I'd like to look like that, but I'm not going to call myself a failure if I don't achieve it. So.
Yeah, I assume they would say, it's been reinforced been almost drilled into them that like your value is your looks. Now, obviously, I would say as a society over the last 30, 40 years, we've definitely made strides as far as like trying to communicate that no, that isn't your only value, but it seems like some of that is still prevalent. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Again, ladies out there, I ain't mad at you. I just don't understand. And the thing is that even if a woman were to sit down with me and try to explain how they feel when they see wrinkles on their face, I probably still wouldn't get it. Admittedly, I admit that I probably will never understand it. And that's fine. That's my experience. Your experience is yours. Mine is mine. But when I see, like I said, when I see this woman in this movie who is a millionaire, has an Oscar, a star on the Walk of Fame, a high-rise apartment in Beverly Hills, and you still have a career, you could still go and do something else. But no, if I can't host my workout show, I'm a fucking failure and nobody values me. And the one person in this movie that did value her for face value, Fred, she just fucking lets him go. It's like that's the scene I was talking about earlier where I thought she was going to start to smarten up. The scene where she calls Fred back, they set up the date, and I'm like, awesome, yes, this is what you need to do. You need to hang out with a guy who thinks you're beautiful the way you are. And because she kept looking at billboards of Sue and pictures of Sue on the television, she just kept freaking out and then just blows off the date completely. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Fred doesn't want to go out with Sue. He wants to go out with Elizabeth, and you just shit on his dream because you have confidence issues. Like I said, I thought she was going to win me back at that point. Nope, she does not. She just blows off poor Fred. We never see him again in the movie, which is probably better because, you know, if Fred actually did get involved with her, he may not survive the movie. But ultimately, you know, this is what I mean about there's no redeeming characters in this movie. Sue is a piece of shit for breaking the rules, and for what? So she can fucking get laid, so she can fuck a fuck boy. What was I just saying about fuck boys? They don't value you just because you're hot.
Well,
And
that was also confusing me too, because like she still got the 7 days, so it's like if you had to like not fuck the dude at the last minute, well, go wait your 7 days and you'll be back and you can fuck him all those 7 days that you want. Like, yeah.
Oh, and then that's the whole 7 days thing that bothers me too. There is no producer in Hollywood that would allow you to work 7 days and then get 7 days off consecutively at any job. I don't care how hot you are. I don't care how big a commodity you are. Imagine telling a movie production, oh, I can only work 1 week on and 1 week off. They would laugh you off the set. So, yeah, again, whatever.
Yeah. Especially for like an unknown, like.
Exactly.
Like
I mean, she's got to work her ass off. When you're an unknown, you got to work even harder to get that name recognition, that face recognition, all of that. And she's working 1 week and then disappearing for another. And Dennis Quaid, her supposed manager, publicist, whatever the fuck his job actually was.
I think he was just like the producer, right? Producer of that show.
Potentially, yeah, I guess. But it's like
producer, showrunner, something in that area.
Right. Network head, maybe. I mean,
yeah, he was kind of like
we never get specifics.
I think he was like I'm assuming producer because he seemed like the middleman between the talent and like the executives.
Right. I was thinking like showrunner or something like that.
Yeah, showrunner's valid, absolutely.
I thought he was great.
The way, I guess he was great. He's so over the top.
He plays the role fine, but his character is not that interesting.
Yeah, his character is just so, and I understand he's supposed to be shady. He's supposed to be disgusting. He's supposed to be womanizing. But Jesus Christ, by the end of the movie, he's a fucking cartoon character. Like that scene near the end of the movie when him and those other old white men are literally skipping down the hall following the half-naked dancers. Are you fucking joking? Shut the fuck up. That does not. Oh, fuck you. Do you know how many women Dennis Quaid's character has probably bedded in this universe? He's probably fucked every woman he's ever given a job to. I mean, he's probably Harvey Weinstein, excuse me, not Firestein. Sorry, Harvey. I like Harvey Firestein. Harvey Weinstein. I mean, that's probably who Dennis Quaid is most reminiscent of in this movie. So a man who's had that much sex, who's fucked that many women, would not be giddy about seeing women in scant clothing, to the point that he's skipping down the hall. It's just so, and this is why I agree with Mike that this is an absurdist look at Hollywood, but it seems like a lot of the movie tries to be grounded in reality, and then it'll go from scene to scene where it's like, okay, that seems grounded in reality, but then the very next scene is so fucking over the top, you're like, that would never happen in any fucking world. There's no planet where that would happen. You know what I mean? So that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's supposed to be absurd, like absurd subtext on the fact that like here's this old disgusting dude that's probably just as old as Elizabeth Sparkle or even older, yet he's in charge of making these decisions. And like you look all at the executives, they're all probably even older, and they're all oogling and disgusting and not like they come off as unprofessional, and it's not really affecting their careers. But then with the woman, it's like the minute their looks like dive a little bit, it's like, yeah, you're out of here, you're fired. So I think that's what the subtext was supposed to be regarding those characters.
Which I kind of got that by halfway through the movie, but I just didn't really. I wasn't on board for it, I guess. Like I said, because of the movie, especially because of the way the movie's marketed. I didn't watch trailers as always, but I did watch the trailers after I saw the movie yesterday. And the trailer doesn't even give a hint that this thing has any comedy in it. The trailer makes it look like this is a gritty look at an aging starlet trying to save her career. And it's like, your career was never in fucking danger. You lost one job. You weren't blacklisted. You weren't kicked out of Hollywood. You lost one fucking job. And she's willing to inject herself with fucking reanimator fluid because a YouTube video that she watched says it does this and that. Doesn't speak to a doctor, doesn't speak to a friend, doesn't speak to her agent. I'm not sure. I mean, she had to have an agent of some kind in this movie, but we don't know who the hell it is. Or a manager or a publicist or something. And it's just like, there's so much missing in this movie. And then, like I said, the end game, the whole thing, like, what is the end game here? Are you eventually going to just try to be Sue for the rest of your life, and just the week that you're Elizabeth Sparkle, you just hide in your apartment for 7 days straight and then live life as Sue? Like, how is that fulfilling? Like Mike said, how does this help Elizabeth Sparkle? It does not in any way, shape, or form. She can't get the money. Like I said, how is she going to collect a paycheck? Tell me right now, how is she going to collect a paycheck? She doesn't have a social security number. She doesn't have even if Elizabeth were to set up separate bank accounts, and Sue doesn't have a fucking social security number. So she can't collect any fucking money. She can't collect royalties. It's basically she's working for free for all intents and purposes, and living off of Elizabeth Sparkle's money that she made for the last 25 years. So again, what is the advantage? Why are we taking this serum? There's no concrete reason to do it other than vanity.
Well, yeah, it kind of makes me look at Elizabeth's character from a different perspective, because, like, when I was watching it, in real time, well, I was gonna say the first time, but the only time so far, I think maybe we're incorrectly supposed to think she's sympathetic, or no, maybe we're not supposed to, but we just did because it's Demi Moore who's like known, and she's a aging actress that can't find like better work than this workout video. But then when you really think about it, maybe she's not, like, maybe because like people in the movie are like bigger pieces of shit that you automatically by default almost want to think she's sympathetic. But really, I don't, like, what did she do that's really, like, there's sympathetic moments, I would say, like the scene you described where she was going to go out on a date with the guy, and then she's obviously looking in the mirror and she's beating herself up over, like, I don't look like I'm 25 anymore, like, as if the guy gives a shit.
Exactly.
But, like, overall, it's like, I don't know. Like, a lot of her moves don't exactly make her come off as sympathetic. You can be sympathetic, I guess, of, like, the overall situation of, like, yeah, you were someone on top, and now you're dealing with the fact that, like, it's not your town anymore. But then again, it's like, well, have you even tried to get other role? Like, they
Thank you. I was just about to say that. Why don't you throw a montage in there? Throw like a 2-minute montage in there of her trying to get more work and getting rejected. And maybe like those two guys that were at the booking that Sue auditioned for. Remember how they made fun of the girl before her? They talked about her nose and everything. Mm-hmm. It's like, why don't we get some more with them saying, Elizabeth Sparkle, she used to be hot, but I don't know if we could really put her in anything other than a mom role or something. Like nothing. She doesn't even attempt to get another job. She's so depressed that she lost this workout TV show gig and like I said, she is an Oscar winner. In the movie, they say that she is an Oscar winner. She has won an Oscar. How do you not comprehend that careers evolve and change, and that as you and your body change, your career has to change with it? I mean, Clint Eastwood isn't still playing cowboys and shit. Because he realized that you can't. He's an old man now. So what does he play? Old man roles. And the current crop of action stars, I think it's going to be the same thing. When guys like The Rock and Batista and Vin Diesel, when they start getting old and fat, they're not going to keep trying to do action movies. I mean,
well, Batista's already done that.
Hey, stop that. Batista does awesome. Just because he's thinner now doesn't he? I like Batista. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, all you got to do is throw a quick 1-minute montage of her trying to get other roles. That's sympathetic. Like, to me, nothing that Elizabeth Sparkle does in the movie is sympathetic. I understand that she's supposed to be the sympathetic, role, especially because of the way that Dennis Quaid speaks to her at that dinner. The way that he just blows her off when she finally has a question after him not talking with her, but talking at her the entire meeting, and then just blowing her off when he sees, some other important figure that he, would rather hang out with. Yes, I understand what they were going for. I'm just saying they failed.
Here's another question that I just kind of thought of. What is the big fucking deal about the workout show? Because you made a younger clone of yourself just so they could go be on a workout. Like, I could see if the younger version of yourself is now getting in Oscar nominated movies and these huge roles.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Who fucking cares that a younger version of yourself can now be cast on the same workout show you were doing? Who is there? I don't get the connection of why is this show such a huge... I mean, I guess you could make the argument that it's a platform to launch her to something, but maybe they should have shown that.
But the problem is, another issue is, why would she go and work for the piece of shit that fired her the day she turned 50? It's almost like she had a plan, but the plan never came to fruition because of the events of the third act. But it's like if I was in her situation, Dennis Quaid's character is the last person I'd want to work for. Fuck you. Yeah. In fact, that's what I thought. I thought that she was going to audition, get the part, and then she was just going to give, Dennis Quaid two middle fingers up and say, go fuck yourself. I'll never work for you. Without context, no explanation, just to put him in that bad situation. Dennis Quaid and the rest of the male pigs in this movie don't really get their comeuppance. Very few people actually get their quote-unquote comeuppance. Literally, Elizabeth and Sue are the only people that suffer in this whole movie. And maybe poor Fred, who, got stood up for his date with Elizabeth. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who I'm supposed to be rooting for in this movie, and Fred is about the only person I can think of. Because it's sure as fuck not Elizabeth. It sure as fuck is
for Monstro.
And Monstro, which I thought looked like what do you call it? Michael Rooker in Slither by the end of the movie.
Combined with
that's who it was
boss from Resident Evil.
That's who it was. I was beating myself senseless trying to figure out what the hell that final form lord looked like.
Yeah, Slither. I loved it.
As soon as you said that, I just got the mental image of Grant, and it's like, oh my God, that's him.
Grant. And like I said, folks, I'm shitting on this movie a lot. Don't get me wrong. There's fun moments. Even though the last 15 minutes of this movie are laughable, it's some of the most fun I've had in the theater for a 15-minute stretch. Watching this fucking elephant woman just, limp through and people not noticing. That's the other absurd aspect of this final scene. She puts a paper mask of Elizabeth Starling on her face, yet no one seems to notice that she's 5 times bigger than she was before, that there's an arm poking out of her back. She's got a tail. She's got a fucking tail dragging behind her. And somehow no one notices until she actually hits the stage. And I understand you got to do that for the movie to have that big moment at the end where everybody's calling her a freak and a monster, which once again in 2024 would never fucking happen. This movie really should have been set in the 80s. I don't know why the fuck they decided to set it in modern time, because somebody that looks like what's her name? Monstro Alizu, by the end of the movie, they wouldn't be called a freak and a monster. People would be calling her brave and, and things like that, and lifting her up in this day and age of social warrior, social justice, and, and not judging people, not shaming, body shaming people, things like that. Like, instantly, this crowd turns into like the crowd in the original King Kong, where as soon as King Kong escapes, they all freak the fuck out. And in this one, they're all calling her monster, freak, to the point that they're actually physically attacking her. They're literally jumping on stage, pushing her down. One guy hits her fucking head with a bat and makes her head explode. Unfortunately, it grows back. Well, fortunately for us as the viewer, it grows back. But yeah, this fucking, like, I'm not sure what the message of this movie is.
Monster, that monster final form goes way beyond a freak. Like,
oh yeah,
would you not be terrified if that thing was actually on stage?
Yeah. On top of the fact that it was pretty strong because it was throwing people around, yet these guys are jumping on stage and voluntarily attacking her. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And like I said, and it's mainly because the movie's set in modern times. I mean, there's cell phones. There's a 2024 Ferrari right outside of Elizabeth Starling. Sorry, I'm thinking of Wasp Woman. Elizabeth Sparkle's apartment building. There's a 2024 Ferrari parked outside. So this is absolutely set in modern day, but it feels like it should have been in the 80s. I mean, we got workout videos, we've got body shaming. It's like this movie was set in the wrong decade, and maybe I would have accepted it more had it been set in the 80s too. Like, and that's the other thing too, is like very few people pulled out their cell phones. Imagine if that happened in real life. Every goddamn person in that theater pulls out their cell phone and starts recording. Not in this movie. Only a couple of people did, which makes no fucking sense at all. I mean, and there's a lot about this movie that doesn't make any fucking sense, honestly. And I know it sounds like I really dislike this movie. I did not, folks. I swear I did not. My issue is that, people that have been praising this movie for the last 6 days and getting me excited that I'm about to see something that's going to redefine body horror. And then I watch it and I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Had I seen it before word of mouth, maybe I wouldn't be as negative on it. Because I would have been able to get my thoughts out there before they were tainted by everyone else. And like I said, this is why I avoid social media on the weekends of big movie releases that I'm not going to get to see right away. And what does one of my wonderful co-hosts do? What does one of my wonderful co-hosts, what does he do right after he sees the movie? He gets on every fucking chat that we're both a part of and starts asking everybody, hey, what'd you think of The Substance? I thought it was fucking great. Which instantly jades my because I expect more. My expectations go up. So you know what? I'm going to say I don't like this movie very much because of Mike. Because he hyped this up. He, along with thousands of other people, hyped this movie up to levels that it could never attain. Never in a fucking million years would this movie, as it is now, as it is made and as it's done, would never impress me the way it's somehow impressing all of these people. It's like people have never seen The Thing before. Like I said, people are praising this fucking... I don't know if it's because Demi Moore is in it, who's like a Hollywood legend, and, it's her that's going through all of this horrible, transformation and everything. But that in and of itself is not a selling point to me. Yes, I think she does a great job in this movie. I mean, probably the best performance in the movie is Demi Moore. She's a very believable person, granted, a very selfish person. And like I said, the mere fact that she couldn't just let someone else have the spotlight. It's like, nah, that's my job. I'm just going to make a younger fucking clone of myself and get my own job back for no fucking reason other than to fuck over the next girl who would have gotten the job. And it's just so fucking selfish. Like, how is this supposed to be a sympathetic character? How am I supposed to feel bad for her? Maybe if she only had a 5-year career, like maybe if she, like maybe if the workout thing was the only thing she ever did, like let's say she got the workout thing, became a big local hit in LA because of the video, and then she lost it. I might understand it a little bit more. But we're talking about a woman who had 25 years of fucking success. And yes, I'm going to list it all again. I don't care. She got a fucking Oscar, a star on the Walk of Fame, millions of dollars, and a high-rise apartment in Beverly Hills, and she still fucking wants more. Nah, I'm sorry. That's not a sympathetic character to me. That's not someone that I'm going to get behind and, you know, hope that they survive and hope that they get what they're looking for. Because what they're looking for is selfish and shitty. So, yeah, like I said, I couldn't bring myself to care about anybody in this movie other than Fred. Poor Fred, who's basically the everyman. I mean, he's the representation of the normies, if you will, just the normal people who don't put their values on their looks or the car that they drive or the shoes that they wear. You know what I mean? And he gets fucked over for it. I mean, granted, at least he gets to live. Like, that's some consolation. Lord knows what would have happened to him had he actually gotten involved with this woman. It'd be his spinal fluid they'd be taking out of him. I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else we can really get into. Like, you know, we've already talked about, you know, how this thing starts. You know, she gets a stupid flash drive after she gets fired on her 50th birthday. The video basically doesn't give her any real information. It doesn't give any information about what chemicals are in it. What testing has been done on it, nothing. It's just, it recreates, you know, younger cells. So it's basically doubling your cells. So I will say the scene where Sue first emerges from Elizabeth is pretty fucking cool. Like, I did not see that coming. I think I was more like Mike, where I expected it to be like a de-aging thing. Like, we were going to get Demi Moore from Ghost. You know, Demi Moore from 30 years ago, de-aged, looking all hot. But no, we actually get like Demi Moore actually gives birth like the lady in Demons who had the demon pop out of her back. Basically, Sue pops out of Elizabeth's back. So like I said, I'll give it credit for that. That's original as fuck. But then just all the decisions that Sue makes. And then the thing that really started to piss me off is that as the movie went along and both Elizabeth and Sue would call the number, the number for the substance, the guy on the phone would always be like, "Oh, it's not you and her. You're the same person. It's just you." And I'm like, you very fucking clearly know that's a lie. Because Sue and Elizabeth are not the same fucking person. They are 100% two separate entities. That's why I'm saying the real villain of this movie is the creators of the substance, especially because they get to remain ambiguous.
And what I don't understand is, like, he almost implied that, like, get the other part of you under control. It's like, well, theoretically, they never interact by design. Right. So it's like, what do you mean get them under control? Like, we don't talk to each other. So I was a little confused by that too.
And then part of my issue with the second act, I mentioned having issues with the second act earlier, and I think Don kind of had the same issue. Just the constant switching back and forth. I think at least 2 or 3 times we get a dream sequence that turns out it's the person that's switching, who's, you know, the new person, the person who's now taking control, had a nightmare and then wakes up butt naked on the bathroom floor after having just switched. It's like, okay, that's cool once, but 3 times? No, way too much. Stop that. Yeah. And like Don said it earlier, they could have done it with a montage. Like, they could have done Sue and Elizabeth switching back and forth every 7 days on clockwork until the day that Sue fucks up and decides not to switch because she wants to fuck this biker idiot. Ugh. This is why Sue and Elizabeth are not the same person. Sue, if she was still sharing a brain with Elizabeth, would never do this for a guy. Again, I asked the question, do you know how many people Elizabeth Sparkles probably had sex with up to this point in her life? Like, she's going to risk her body to extend the week and sleep with this woman. No. Sue and Elizabeth are very obviously 2 separate people, to the point that they fight at the end of the movie, which that scene I actually liked. I liked that Elizabeth gets the termination serum goes to try to terminate Sue. What I don't like is that she couldn't do it, because I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Like, when she pulled the syringe out and hadn't injected the entire termination serum, I wanted to scream at the fucking screen. Like, what the fuck? Nothing good can come of this. And guess what? Nothing good came of it. Just bad decision making upon bad decision making upon bad decision making. And folks, if you're a regular listener of this show, you know how much bad decision making pisses me right the fuck off. It takes me out of a movie. And this movie should have been what people are calling it. It should have been one of the best horror movies of the year. It should have been a revolution in body horror. It should have been a revolution in practical effects and acting. Ultimately, we get good effects. We do get some good sound design. I don't think anybody's mentioned the sound design yet. Not the score necessarily. The score is serviceable. It's okay. I didn't think it was exceptional. But the sound design is actually really cool, especially, you know, with all the syringes and the liquids getting pumped in and out, and like all of that worked really well for me. But man, when Elizabeth fails to terminate Sue and then Sue wakes up while Elizabeth is still awake, that's like a big moment in the movie, because obviously up until then we didn't think that could happen. We thought they had to live independently, one for 7 days and then the other one for 7 days, you know, while the host body, or the matrix body as they call it in the movie, regenerates its spinal fluid so that, you know, Sue could come back next week. But oh man, it's like they piss on their own good idea. Like, they had on paper, they had a good idea here. But then when they wrote the story out, I don't know, it just really didn't work. Like I said, you didn't stick any sympathetic characters in here. You didn't give us a realistic view of Hollywood. You set it in 2024, which is literally the absolute worst time period I think that this movie could have been set in. Literally the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, any other fucking decade would have worked. But in 2024, so much of the body shaming in this movie doesn't make sense, because that's not the Hollywood that I live in. You know, and maybe it's the Hollywood that Coralie Farge lives in, the writer and director of this movie, but it ain't the Hollywood I live in. And I'm in Hollywood almost every weekend, man. I love Hollywood. And I love the crazies in Hollywood too. That's actually kind of the part of the flavor of Hollywood is the nut jobs. But it's just this town is not that much of a cesspool, and I'm kind of sick of the cinematic interpretations that it is. You know what I mean? I know this isn't the last one. I know we'll get more eventually, but and then this ending. Let's go ahead and talk about this ending. What the fuck? Basically, Sue is now the hot commodity in Hollywood, and she gets her biggest gig yet, which is to host the New Year's Eve show on this network, whatever this network is. They never tell us that her workout her workout TV show is on. But that night she runs out of stabilizer fluid, and that's after this is after don't forget, the rule was that it was 7 days on, 7 days off. At this point, Sue has been Sue for 3 fucking months, and she's just been extracting spinal fluid like mad out of this woman. There's a great scene where she actually grabs a bunch of empty jars and literally drains all of the spinal fluid, which, by the way, if your spinal fluid is drained, it's pretty much instant death. So, but whatever. Again, it's a movie. I'll suspend my disbelief for the 1000th time for this fucking movie. But yeah, just the selfishness of both Elizabeth in taking this serum, the selfishness of Sue sacrificing Elizabeth's health so that she could have, you know, all of this, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, back to New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, she runs out of stabilizer fluid. Her body starts to fall apart. This is where the body horror really starts to kick in, because her teeth start to fall out. One of her ears falls off. It's pretty fucking awesome. And then she realizes that she still has some of the activator at home. The activator, though, was a one-time use. It was literally supposed to be used once and then thrown away. Why Elizabeth decided to keep what little bit of the activator she had left for upwards of 4 months at this point, is beyond me. But yeah, she somehow had a little bit of the activator left. Sue, who at this point, Elizabeth is dead. At this point, Sue and Elizabeth have their knockdown drag out to the point that that Sue basically kills Elizabeth. Elizabeth is gone. She is just, not only does she look like she's 125 years old, she gets the absolute shit beat out of her face broken in half, her back broken. I mean, she's deader than shit. But like I said, Sue, because her body is falling apart, decides to take the activator again, hoping that, quote unquote, a better version of her will emerge. Well, she takes the activator again, passes out, and what the fuck is born into the world? Monstro Elizasu, or Elisu. So Elizabeth and Sue combined in a fucking mongoloid monster form. Like I said earlier, it kind of looks like Michael Rooker in Slither, but with Demi Moore's face and arm on the back. And the look on Demi Moore, on Elizabeth's face when she was on the back of Monstro, it's almost painful. Like, she looks like she's screaming, but there's no sound coming out. So it's pretty fucked up. Obviously, she's attacked by multiple people. She eventually gets out of the theater, runs away. But as she's running away, her body is falling apart even more. She ends up breaking one of her legs. After breaking her leg, she falls down, and when she hits the ground, she literally just explodes into a fucking puddle of blood and pus. And then the last image we fucking see, which, I'm sorry, I'm still laughing about this, I don't care. The last image we see is the face of Elizabeth Sparkle on this just mound of flesh, on I don't know, like a football-sized mound of flesh, and it literally crawls to her Hollywood star, which, by the way, I did like the montage at the beginning of the movie showing the creation of the star and then how it breaks down over time. We start to see the cracks develop in it. I thought that was nice symbolism right there. Probably the best symbolism we get in the movie, honestly. And then the face of Elizabeth Starling on this random mound of flesh literally crawls over to her Hollywood Walk of Fame star, lands on it, like sits right on it. Well, sits. I mean, she's literally a puddle of pus. And she looks up to the sky and she sees the stars almost like they're raining stardust on her. And literally she dies with a smile on her face, and then she just kind of literally melts into the ground. And literally the very next shot is like one of those little mini Zamboni floor cleaner type things, basically just cleaning up the remnants of melted Elizabeth on the ground. And that's pretty much how our movie ends, which, holy shit, like I said, that last 15 minutes, if this movie wanted to be taken seriously, the last 15 minutes did it a gigantic disservice. Like I said, I don't hate it. I don't. But it definitely delves into horror comedy territory. And considering IMDb calls this a horror drama, I don't understand why there's even comedy in here. Like, the comedy in this movie should have been Dennis Quaid's character, the douchebag neighbor character, the guy who lived across the hall from Elizabeth Sparkle. Holy shit, that guy was an idiot. Yet another male in Hollywood portrayed as a piece of shit. But he was mildly funny, so I can accept it. He had that kind of douchebag humor to him that kind of worked for me. But like I said, again, even like, what was Sue's plan? What was Elizabeth's plan if she was seen coming out of that apartment after Sue had already told the neighbor, oh, Elizabeth, now I'm the new tenant? Like, what happens if the next week suddenly the neighbor sees Elizabeth come out of the apartment? It's like, oh, there goes your plan. You just fucked that up. There's so many things that could have gone wrong with this movie, and or the plan, the whole plot of the film. So much could have gone wrong, and a lot did go wrong, but so much more could have gone wrong. It just doesn't make sense that anybody would think this is a good idea. And yeah, like I said, I walk away from the film feeling very upset that we get no backstory on the substance or the people who make it. Like, that to me seems like something that was missed. Even if you just give us a throwaway post-credit scene with like maybe somebody going, like maybe a scientist in a lab who's monitoring Elizabeth and then sees that last bit of her melt into the concrete, and he just goes, oh, well, back to the drawing board. Just something, give me something to show that there actually is a human being responsible for this substance. But nope, we don't get that. We get a voice on the telephone. That's all we get. So, yeah, like I said, I wanted to like this movie as much as everybody else did. There's just way too many plot holes, way too much suspension of disbelief, way too many ridiculous scenarios that are supposed to be taken seriously that I just laugh or roll my eyes. So, yeah, if you love this movie, if you think that this is one of the top 10 movies of the year, awesome. I'm glad for you. I really am. But for me, this isn't even a top 10 right now. So forget about being a top 10 candidate by the time the year's over. And I think I'm done talking about The Substance.
Moral of the story, fuck you, Mike.
I mean, I still thought it was good.
especially because it was the big release of the month. I don't regret watching it. I definitely just feel kind of gypped. You know, I feel like there was a better movie here to be made, but they made this kind of Malignant style over-the-top horror comedy that works in some places, but for me personally doesn't work in a lot of places. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that is The Substance on The Substance. So, that said, anything new? Probably not, because we only recorded a few days ago,
our
last episode. So I'm going to assume there's not much new, but
Yeah. Obviously over the last couple of days since we recorded the last episode, I've just been resting. The latest episode of Creature Comforts is a little bit closer to being done. I should be done with it in the next day or two. I'm hoping tomorrow to be completely done with it so that I can have it to fill well before Friday so that it could be out by this weekend. That's the plan. But yeah, otherwise, I was assigned my movie for, what do you call it? Not for the horror head-to-head on Podcast Under the Stairs, which is still moving forward. But I got my assignment for Thrills and Chills. Yes, cut to the chase. Thrills and Chills. I will be looking at Haunt, a Halloween movie from just a couple of years ago, actually. So, and if I remember correctly, I did like it. So hopefully the revisit works as well. And I think that's pretty much all I have for you.
You got anything, Don?
No, same as last time. Creature Comforts coming up. Recorded episode for Indie Film Cafe's 31 Days of Indie Horror that will be released in October, and season 3 of Horror Countdown.
All right. Nothing new for me, although it looks like we might have the next episode of the main show actually scheduled. So that was going to be our backup to talk about The Substance had we not recorded this episode, but this helped us get our full thoughts, not having to condense it down.
We'll probably still talk about it on the main show because I know Derek will probably have some opinions.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he says. And I think that's it. I know we had already mentioned on the Never Let Go episode kind of the stuff coming up. There's that one theatrical release. There's the new Joko Anwar on Netflix. Yeah. So we do have choices.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I forget what's opening in the theater this week. I know something is. It's not a big one.
It's that Samara Weaving one.
Oh, right, Azrael. Yeah. Man, how do we feel
Azrael.
about a fucking feature-length movie with no dialogue?
Yeah, I heard there's not.
They've been trying that lately, and I haven't been impressed with any of them.
I mean, I remember Quest for Fire when I was a kid. You guys remember that movie, the caveman movie?
Mm-hmm.
That one wasn't bad. But yeah, exactly. It was like early to mid-'80s. I remember not hating it, but I'm with Don. I haven't seen a good one in a very long time, a dialogue-free movie. So
they've been trying it the last few years, but
yeah. Fingers crossed for Azrael.
All right. Well, with that, thank you everybody for tuning in for another episode. We will be back in less than a week's time, actually, from this one. with a new episode. So let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
Ladies, don't fight aging. It happens to all of us, and despite the way that you look at yourself in the mirror, there is someone somewhere who thinks you're beautiful. There's probably multiple people who think you're beautiful, even with wrinkles, even with crow's feet, even with smile lines. So try to, be happy with who you were and who you're about to become. It's just a new stage in your life. It's not like your life is over. So, all I can say, and I'm no psychologist by any stretch, but all I can say is try to be comfortable with your aging, because we all think you're beautiful. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Peace.